I have a theory about people who are very sensitive and can feel a lot of empathy, who impart the feelings of others as if they were their own onto themselves. That these people, I think, have more of a capability of violence, of deceit, manipulative behavior, and just general bad things than people who go throughout their life feeling rather neutral. They are in kind of a good state for their whole life, or good to neutral, and they don't really move from there. Now, most normal people, their emotional state doesn't change very much. They might feel sad if someone dies or if something bad happens, but it goes away the next day or the next week. It isn't like their mood jumps around constantly. They're not constantly feeling things. That's not how those people work. And so those people are generally not very dangerous. They're not a threat because they're just propping up the status quo. That's their life, is just propping up the status quo. But when you get people who, to many of you, may seem to be kinder, more empathetic, more loving, those people are the people you really have to worry about. Because if you put them in the wrong environment, if you make them feel too bad for too long, if one thing gets messed around, one trigger gets pulled, and by trigger I mean it in the psychological, metaphorical sense, not them literally shooting a gun, but that could be the end result of the metaphorical trigger being pulled, which would lead to a literal trigger being pulled. But I digress. If that person is triggered by some series of events or one event, but something happens to sort of jumble up their emotional state, it can result in some of the most cruel and violent things that you can imagine or can't imagine. I've had experiences with people where some of the most loving people who I knew, but because they had so much love, so much humanity, that they just were that human, they also, in a fit of rage or anger or sadness, a monster comes out of them. And that monster is a result of being emotional. You can't, if you're a very emotional person, it isn't like you just feel the good things, the positive things, or the empathy. It's like you're feeling all the time. No, as much emotional suppression as I do, and as much as I talk about how under control I am of my own emotions, I'm like that. I can feel really strong empathy, and I'm very sensitive to other people, and I care about other people. But there have been times when I've acted like a total psychopath, when nothing was going right, everything was going wrong, and a couple things, from people who I really cared about led me to saying terrible things, or just cutting off my relationships with them randomly. I've had a long history of doing this. Thankfully, I don't do this anymore. It's been quite a while since I've done this to a person, but I used to do this. I would just randomly cut off friends, because I would just get upset, and then I would think, well, clearly the problem here is with the other person and not with the way I'm reacting to things, so I must cut them out immediately. And then I'd cut them out, and then I'd end up feeling incredibly sad for, several months about not talking to the person, and my depression would get significantly worse, because I would make an impulsive decision. That's the thing about very emotional people, is that they want to resolve their emotional state because they're feeling too much. Now, very often I am feeling too much, and I don't like feeling things a lot of the time. because I have to live with having such extreme emotions, I have to sort of teach myself to like feeling things because I've gone the route of trying to suppress everything as much as possible. I've gone the route of just trying to be like a peaceful Buddhist guy, and I mean that's way easier when you're smoking weed all the time because you're just really calm. Weed just makes me really calm, and that's what I like about it, is that, you know, it sort of like levels out my emotional state. And that was sort of the goal that they had when they did marijuana assisted treatment of people with like bipolar disorder and PTSD, and depression and stuff. I believe ADHD was, you know, one of the, you can get it prescribed for ADHD. But, you know, like, it levels out people's emotions. Mood stabilizers never really worked for me. They always just made my depression worse. But, like, weed is like a natural mood stabilizer. For a lot of people, at least. For some people, it has the inverse effect. But, so like, it's easy for me to be that kind of peaceful person of saying, I don't have to suppress my emotions because I've just accepted everything as it is. You know, it makes you very accepting and calm, or it does for me. And so when I've had it consistently, that's what I've been like. And I almost fooled myself into believing that that was just how I was, that like I had effectively changed because of my chemical state being altered, that, you know, I was just permanently a different person. I sort of tied it to a number of experiences that I had, namely like when I almost died, for example. I thought that was the reason why I was calm all the time. And it did affect me. It did make me more appreciative of my surroundings and of the world around me, and more calm in general. Like, that was a real effect it had. I just overstated the effect, you know, when really a lot of the effect was because of my chemical state being altered as regularly as it was. But my baseline emotional state, any of you who have known me for long enough, you know, for 2+ years, 1+ year, you know, even like 6 months, you've seen me radically shift in terms of my mood, my identity, the way I see things. That's just how I am. I'm just very emotional, and I get carried away with it. And so, well, for one, it's important to admit it, but no, when people get like that, like, it's almost unpredictable in a sense. I don't want to call myself unpredictable because I have the self-awareness to see when something is coming on. Nowadays I do. I didn't used to. And I suppress things a lot just because I need to. There are certain things that I just need to suppress in order to function in certain situations. And I have a lot more self-control than I used to. But the problem's still there. The problem is still there of feeling too much of too many things. You know, like, I've had people tell me that, like, I'm one of the kindest people that they've met, because it just makes me feel really good to do good things for people. And there's a lot of times when it makes me feel too bad to not do good things for people. Or, like, if something bad is happening and I, you know, wouldn't, if there's something bad is happening and I'm not doing something about it, I'm going to feel bad in turn. And so I feel it. I feel those emotions that other people have. But that doesn't make me a good person, you know? Because again, when you're that emotional, on the other hand, I can go into, you know, full dissociated, suppression mode where I just do bad things, where I'm just mean. And so there's two sides of the coin. It isn't black and white. It isn't just because I feel those things or I do those things that I'm more good than other people. Because you get the extreme end of the other one as well. You get the extreme end of the same thing, or the opposite side. What am I talking? I sound like Joe Biden. But, so, you know, like, the most emotional people, the most loving people, are also the most violent. That's what I've decided. The people who feel the most have the most potential to be dangerous. And I have that potential. I'm not gonna lie. And sometimes, when I was younger, or, even a few times in recent memory, not too recent memory, it's come out. It's come out. And I don't know, it's kind of like a balancing act of just sort of learning to control that part of yourself, I guess. It's weird. It's very, very weird. I don't understand it fully still, but mastering the self takes effort. It's a process that never truly ends. The point I was going to make, there was a separate point I wanted to make about highly sensitive people. Oh yeah, emotional suppression. So that tends to be the way that I act out, is that when I'm upset about something, I don't really emote about it. And I see people who are highly sensitive as well who do the opposite thing, where like the moment they get upset, they get really angry, and then after they get angry, they're like upset about how they got angry. That's not how I get stressed. When I get stressed, I just bury all of the emotions down. I just force them down as much as I can, and I have a neutral face. Like, even when I'm in severe physical pain, I'll only make a little bit of a face, but I won't complain. I won't make very much noise unless I have to get up. I'll make a bit of noise if I have to get up. But I won't complain. If someone asks me, oh, are you okay? It'll be all right, blah, 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 that normal comforting stuff, I'll just say, don't worry about it, I'm all right. Even though internally I'm feeling a lot of physical pain. And I know this because I've, other than having a kidney stone, I've had other pretty bad, physically painful situations. When I was very young, my brother threw me off of a bunk bed onto this, huge, box of books, and it was a really hard box. My back ended up hurting for, multiple years, but it healed. But it hurt every day. Every single day. How old was I? 10 years old or something like that? They hurt every single day. He just threw me off of his bed. And I could have been injured way more by that asshole. But, it's young experience, just having to hold the pain in. I was given paracetamol or something, and it didn't work. And so I just felt like shit all the time, from my back injury. So that's the way I react to physical pain. Emotional pain as well. I feel like emotional pain is something I actually react to stronger than physical pain. I feel very disconnected from my own body. Stuff that happens to my body oftentimes just literally doesn't register. For example, when I had a kidney stone and I went to the restroom and I just pissed blood, I looked down on it. I looked down at it and I just had no reaction. I just walked away. And I went back to doing what I was doing before. When I told people that, they were surprised. They were like, how did you have such an aloof reaction to such a serious physical ailment? And I was like, I don't know, I just pissed blood. It's not really that big of a deal. Yes, it is a big deal. So with a lot of the time, I feel almost completely dissociated from my own body. I don't really react to pain. And I think part of it is just extreme emotional suppression. And then the other part is just a real sense of disconnection to what's physically there. But emotions are much more real to me. Emotions are much more real. And so, I end up having a more strong reaction to people saying mean things and stuff like that. To me, that's way more real. Those concepts are way more real than any physical pain could be. And that's why I don't understand these people who say, get into a fight and that's reality. For one, that's just a really edgy thing to say. Like, it's incredibly edgy to say that. But I've gotten into tons of fights, and it didn't feel real the whole time. You know, there were fights that I lost, there were fights that I won, but it was just like my body was reacting to the things that were happening. That, you know, I had to strategically, you know, get punches in where I had to. You know, I had to sort of, I don't like this, like, rules of fighting bullshit, rules of fighting. If you're fighting at all, you're enough of a pathetic animal that there are no rules. So I always broke all of the rules, you know? You know, try and like go for the throat, the nuts, and these kind of things. You know, use items that are in the room or just around you, you know, slam someone against a wall. You know, like, use literally everything at your disposal to inflict as much physical harm on the other person as you possibly can, and get creative with it. That's when it gets fun, is when you get creative with it. But what was I on about? Oh yeah, so like these people who say, oh yeah, get into a physical fight, that's reality. Feel pain, that's reality. I've never understood that, and I don't think I ever will. Because it still doesn't feel real to me. It's just stuff that happens to your body. Stuff that happens to your body's not real. It's not real. Like, that's how it feels, and I don't know how to convey how that feels to other people. But anyway. Oh, enough of that weird Quentin Tarantino bullshit. But why did I say Quentin Tarantino? That's more of like a 1960s gangster kind of thing. Is it? Maybe like Italian mafia get into a fight. That's reality. Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, but what was I on about? So yeah, like, I think I was talking about how people have seen me do bad stuff? I don't actually remember what I was talking about. Anyway, basically oh yeah, so different reactions that highly sensitive people have. Now, some highly sensitive people, they just blow up, and I've blown up before. But usually my reaction is just to suppress the emotions as much as humanly possible. And then it eventually blows up. But it blows up in a kind of weird way. Like, I'm still suppressing my emotions as I blow up. That's how deep it gets. That's how deep the suppression gets, is that I'm literally still suppressing them as I'm blowing up and having an adverse reaction, having a negative reaction, doing bad things as a result of what's going on, you know? It's weird. It's really weird, and I don't know how to explain it. It's like I just shut off. It's like I shut off every emotion, and then it allows me to do really, you know, bad stuff. You know, I just completely detach from any sense of self that I have. But at the same time, I am really attached, because I wouldn't be doing the things that I would be doing if I wasn't really attached at the same time. So feelings are weird, I guess. I spend an absurd amount of time thinking about the various mental states that I've been in over time, that, you know, my memory, even though it's kind of bad, it's able to reinforce or remember certain things better over time, because I just end up spending so many hours reflecting on the same events from different perspectives. And recently, I've been observing how much I take breaks when consuming media. Now, this doesn't happen nearly as much as, like, when I'm, like, smoking pot or something, because it increases my focus and my general enjoyment of the media. And to be honest, I would prefer consuming most things stoned than consuming things sober. But there are certain things that, on some level, almost feel better watched sober. Or they're better suited to it. I don't know about feel better, but there's certain things that are, you know, more ideal for that kind of mind state. You know, I really miss stimulants, because when I would watch anime, it would make all of the details be much more coherent as I was consuming it. I would be much more interested in the series, much more focused. I can't focus on subtitles as well as other people do. I tend to need external stimulation when I'm consuming something. This is probably why my favorite medium is like video games, for instance, is because I will just take constant breaks and move in between tabs when I'm consuming something, but it wasn't always like this. I used to spend hours being able to consume one thing that was, to most people, relatively boring with no problem. You can probably tell that I am balding. My hair is thinning a bit. It used to constantly fall out when I would get really depressed and my hair would turn gray. I have some gray patches on my head that you may have been able to pick out from this, YouTube channel of mine. I have some patches of white and gray hair. Partly it's due to stress. I get outbreaks of hair on my body turning gray and white due to depression and stress, which is not fun. But I've been noticing that my hair has been growing better than it used to. Balding is not as much of an issue as it used to be. It looks like it's improving in general, which is good. I really wish that I didn't cut my hair to be so short. I don't like the way that it looks at all. It makes me a bit upset and uncomfortable. But it seems like it's improving, which that's a good thing. Seems like it's improving. I'm beginning to realize that I don't like anime that much, and I've talked about this for the last month on my channel, even a bit before that, where I was desperately trying to get into anime as a hobby, and now, I just don't care very much. I was watching After the Rain, a show I liked, and even now, after watching it, I don't even like it that much. After 2 episodes, I don't want to continue my series, but I have to. And so, I don't know. I really don't know. Because the only thing I seem to enjoy anymore is books. I like books quite a lot, but I don't really like much other art. I like weed, and I like alcohol, but I don't like much of anything else. It's an unfortunate turn of events. I tell you. But at least I like books. If I were to be stuck with one medium, the fact that I like books more than all the other mediums is certainly a good thing. I used to think I liked video games more than all the other mediums. I think books and video games are tied as the ones I like the most. But I don't like anything else. And it's weird. You would think that movies at least I would like, but no. No. Jesus Christ. Now, combining weed and alcohol, it has this jamming effect on your brain, where it's you feel the intensity of both things at once, and it's pretty cool. Holy fucking shit, dude. So today, I reached 1,000 videos on YouTube. in my every YouTube video featuring Outlaw playlist. What the fuck? Okay, so most of my existing videos from when I began YouTube are now gone. I started in 2014 making Minecraft videos, and then I deleted all of those videos because I was ashamed of them. I wish I kept them up, but it is what it is. So instead, the most recent old videos that I made are from February 11th, February 10th, something like that, of 2015, when I max revived my account, which at this point, this is 2019, so that would mean that I've been doing this for exactly 4 years. And in 4 years' time, it's quite odd to me that I was able to accrue 1,000 videos. I mean, that's not even including the myriad of shitposts and secret videos that I don't even add to the playlist. There's so many. Like, if I were to add those, that would easily be another 200 tacked on. It's not including all the blog posts that aren't even adapted to video either, or the secret podcasts that I've posted on blogs and stuff. Like, the amount of content that's been made here is just utter madness. I mean, just today I had a new political video about prostitution shipped off to Kalopi to post on Shonen Ronin, and that's 101 videos. It's just not uploaded yet. So it's like, there's so much shit that I've put out, and I don't see any sign of it stopping because I keep having more and more ideas. There's so many things that I want to make, and it's so weird to me to think about this, because the time in which my content started actually becoming greater in number was 2016, mid to late 2016 specifically, because that was when I got really into the idea of vlogging and vlogging more frequently. One sec, I gotta get this done. Okay. Future me listening to this as a video diary. Just don't mind that. I gotta walk him again after this. He always needs one. He always needs one. But see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, my content, like my content, fucking, it only really started picking up steam in 2016, late 2016. So at that point, like, if I'm releasing a video a day, or more than like 3 videos a week or something like that, you know, if I'm releasing that much content, then it stands to reason to say that after 3 years, 3 years of making videos, it's pretty insane that I made it to 1,000. I think if you add all of that up, actually, I don't want to do the math for that right now, but I'll do the math at another time. But I think it would be like more than 1 video a day for that entire period. So, Jesus Christ, only 3 years. And I mean, it's not even 3 years technically, because I really started at like late 2016. So was that 2 years and a quarter, or maybe 2 years and a quarter and a nickel? You know, like, that's an insane amount of videos to make in that time, and a lot of them are pretty good. Like, I'm not proud of the videos that I made in 2016, obviously, and throughout most of 2017 there was some pretty mediocre stuff there, but overall I think the overall breadth of my content is pretty good, pretty passable, watchable stuff. Some of it ranging to even some of my favorite videos, just because it expresses a point that's very personal to me. The fact that I've done this in such a short span of time is just so weird. It's so weird to me. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I guess all I have to say is cheers to the next 1,000. The only way I can go up, the only way I can go is up from here. It's 12 a.m. right now, so I'm probably gonna listen to more of this more of No Thank Yous podcast, because he released this ooh on Thin Ton Under the Bed or something like that today, and he released it literally the day after I released my episode of Outlaw's Cremation Furnace on Infinite Outlaw. So I guess he got the idea to do it from there, but it's been pretty good so far. I've been enjoying it, so I'm gonna finish listening to that and play more CS:GO, unless I get another video idea, because I have been on fire making these videos today. Like, I did the aesthetic is paramount on the secret Outlaw YouTube channel, the other one that's not this one, and people seem to like that one. So yeah, more content. The fact that I'm making all these secret videos while having a semi-regular schedule on the main channel is actually kind of amazing. This is all I am. YouTube is one of the only things I enjoy, so I don't know, in 3 or 4 years when I look back on this video on this archives channel, it's going to be interesting to see how I feel about that. You know what my main issue with a lot of my own content is? It's my inability to record myself, not just looking at myself on camera and things like that. That obviously horrifies me, but more so the background of my own home, because I live in a living room, as many of you know, and there's not much that I can actually do to change my living space and to make it more expressive of myself. For one reason, I live with other people and I try to hide as much of my own interest and just things about myself. In general, I have not spoken to my own cousin in months. In fact, the one time that I did today, my heart started racing, and as soon as I got up from the couch, I felt as if I needed to sit back down just because my heart was going so fast. You know, these are the levels of hiding stuff from your own family that I've gotten to. And I mean, that specific instance too, it was over, not just like speaking to him or saying words to him, it was over the potential of him seeing what was on my 3DS screen, because I was watching a Psy video at the time, and like just down on the recommended bar you could see like fuck Digibro, and it had like this fat guy, because you know Psy's a fat guy, and like just that title, that weird like call-outy petty title, and the fact that it was a fat guy, like I couldn't stop thinking about it. The potential of him seeing that I was looking at a video of a fat guy calling someone out on the internet, just how petty and weird that would look. And I mean, the video itself was not even like a call-out video, you know, it was a joke title, but just the fact that I had like a fat guy on the video screen, in the recommended bar. Not even that I was watching his video, just in the recommended bar, because I had already finished the video, and on the 3DS app it just says YouTube on the top screen, so it doesn't even show the thumbnail or the video anymore. But the fact that that was in my recommended scared me, that he would see that. And I said like 2 words to the guy, and both times my delivery was just so off-put and bad that my voice actually showed that I was uncomfortable, that I was scared that I was saying these things, and it felt weird. It felt weird saying those things, and the fact that I was uncomfortable showed through my tone and my voice. And it's not like an analytical thing, because I analyze a lot of my own stuff that I do. I analyze a lot of what other people do. I think that uncomfort could just be shown through my voice to anybody. And so that really scared me. His reaction to me being uncomfortable, just responding to him, really scared me. And as I said, I haven't spoken to the man in months, despite the fact that I live in the living room where he frequently sits in. I just always have my headphones on. I just always am doing something else, trying to seclude myself. and much of the time I'm awake at night when everybody is asleep. When he wakes up to get to the work, I hide under the covers, so literally so he cannot see me. And it's weird. It's weird to be like this, to be this social outcast who is just hiding from their own family. No one does this. And yeah, I have no idea what I was going through with that point, what I was trying to express, but yeah, I live in a living room is what I'm trying to get across. And so in light of that, there's very little that I can put on my walls or put around that expresses who I am for, anxiety purposes, and also for the fact that other people share the rooms, so they're going to want to put up their own stuff, you know. And so I run into that problem, and when I'm recording vlogs, when I'm recording anything, I end up just focusing on one little corner of the room. If I record at all on a camera, which oftentimes I'm recording from my tablet, so I have to, because I lack the proficient editing software on Linux to make a video that's with an image on it, because the editor that I use is really bad. So I end up using the tablet for a lot of that, and I just focus on one part of it. I mean, I would look even worse than I already do if I recorded anything on the tablet. It would look really bad, and so that's just out of the window. Just can't do that. And so, God, being awake at the daytime is hard. What I end up doing is just not recording these face-to-face types of things. The reason I want to is to show off. Oh my God, this is fucking terrible. right there. Can you see that? That's my window. I've been staring at it for, I want to say, several hours now. But you're not seeing it from my perspective. Because from my perspective, I can see it in the dark. Because the only way you can see it is with the camera. But I can see the window. And I've been staring at the window. And every now and then, as I'm walking back and forth, I catch a glimpse. I catch a glimpse of what's going on outside. And I see the shadows move. And when I see the shadows move, I see shadowy men. Shadowy men from outside the window, going in and out of frame, moving on and about, but shadowy men outside the window. I'm not afraid of the shadowy men outside the window. They exist alongside me. I know that there's nothing to fear. But I feel agitated nonetheless. Like there's something nicking at the back of my neck. Something there. You feel like there's more energy. Like you're agitated. More energy out of agitation. It's always that. It's never you see it, and then when you do see it, you jump out of yourself, you immediately have to brace for cover. It's not that simple. Sometimes your reaction just is. And instead of jumping out of your own skin, you perk up a bit. Maybe your blood goes a bit faster, but there's no threat. And it's just you and the men in the shadows in the distance. Lorazepam, I can't even keep the time of the track for most of my conversations. Most of my conversations don't make sense. The only thing you really do is play first-person shooters worse. You may be less nervous in a voice chat in the game, but you're not going to be as sharp at CS or COD or whatever. I wouldn't call benzos the drug you should take for that. there's a difference between, different types of alcoholism that exist. You got your functional alcoholics. Those people, you got your functional alcoholics. They're addicted to alcohol. They physically depend on alcohol. And then you got, number two, you got your dysfunctional alcoholics. People who depend on alcohol, but they're not functional, meaning that they can't get through daily life without being dysfunctional. Those people are dysfunctional alcoholics. And it's interesting, right? You sort of see a kind of depressing pattern with anyone who gets too into one drug. Like anyone who gets too into one drug. It's interesting, right? No, I think the reason alcohol is done, alcohol is pretty trashy. I personally, I like alcohol for relieving my anxiety. That's what I like it for. It's for relieving my anxiety, right? It's for disinhibiting me, for getting rid of stress, for making me not think about stress. Of course, if I had opioids, I would just do opioids. Opioids are expensive, and they're very addictive. So it's difficult to get hold of opioids. Or not even difficult. Back when Empire was around, I remember when Empire was around. It hasn't been around since this coronavirus recession and pandemic stuff started. Back when Empire was consistently up, it was very easy to get a hold of opioids. I've wanted to try hydromorphone for a while because, I liked oxycodone a lot. There was a time when I called oxycodone my favorite drug. I wouldn't call it my favorite anymore necessarily. I think actually 6-APB is a better drug in terms of just the euphoria that you feel. But there's something really, really nice about being in a stressful day and having an oxycodone, a bunch of oxycodone. There's something really nice about it. And it sort of relieves your stress, right? And, I was thinking about this. Because I really want to try hydromorphone because I ended up doing hydrocodone more. And I hear that hydromorphone is it's like a version of hydrocodone but stronger, and it's almost like heroin in a sense. And I believe people tend to say that oxycodone is just like heroin except when you inject it. When you inject it, it's much stronger and much more addictive. I don't like injecting things. I don't want to inject it, But hydromorphone, I liked hydrocodone a lot. I really did. People say it's like the poor man's version of oxycodone. And in a sense, I can understand. But in a sense also, it's like oxycodone is too euphoric. It's too euphoric in a sense. Is it hydrocodone? It was a less intense high, but in the right way. And I'm thinking, what is hydromorphone like? What is it like? I want to know, what is it like? And I can buy it on the internet. Of course, you can buy anything on the internet if you try hard enough. But what is it like? I want to know, what is it like? And, I miss opioids. I really do. Because I get into these stressful periods. I get into these really stressful periods where I want to relieve stress somehow. And it's important not to get addicted. I've been physically addicted before. You could say psychologically addicted to some extent, although I got over it. But I've been physically addicted before. You don't want to get addicted. Because on the one hand, it's diminishing returns. You get diminishing returns when you're addicted. You get diminishing returns. But on the other hand, you also get the really bad physical effects when you inevitably have to withdraw. Because if you're poor like me, you don't have a lot of money. Most of the money I make is from YouTube. That's where most of my money comes from, and it's been drying up. I'm gonna start getting my mom's social security checks, the checks that she gets for having me as a kid, um, just for being registered in school. Now I don't attend school. That's about like $160, I think. It would just come from her. Just from being her kid, I would get it, and from being an adult that attends school. I'm gonna be an adult very soon, legally. And so, you know, I don't have a lot of money. I'm gonna have a little bit more money, not a lot. I think I have more money than a lot of people my age. I'm not gonna have a lot of money. I'm pretty poor. Economically, I'm pretty poor. Growing up where I do, I'm pretty poor. So I can't, I can't get opiates regularly. I just can't. But I want to have them. I want to do them. There's the research chemical vendor I use. They have one opioid that they sell that's called ODSMT, Odes Tramadol. Now, if you know anything about tramadol, a tramadol, it's an interesting drug because it's like the only opioid that reuptakes serotonin. Serotonin. It's the only opiate that reuptakes serotonin. And so, a lot of people describe an almost stimulated feeling from using it, a kind of energy that they don't get, because most opioids are sedating. They make you very tired. They give you a tired feeling. They make you very tired. So most of them make you very tired. And I was thinking about this, right? And so, I want to do tramadol again. Oh yeah, Odes tramadol. So, okay. So what makes Odes tramadol interesting, what makes it interesting as a drug, is that it takes out that serotogenic part of the drug. It takes it out, essentially. So it's taken out. It takes out the serotogenic part, the part that induces serotonin in your brain. Okay? And it just gives you the opioid part, which is the ODSMT, Odes Tramadol, which is an active ingredient in tramadol. But what makes tramadol so specific as an opioid is the serotonin reuptaking component, among other chemicals. But the reason why ODSMT can be sold as a research chemical is because Odes Tramadol is not a scheduled drug. Tramadol is a scheduled drug. You take out that serotonin inhibiting part, you take out those other parts of the drug, and it's just ODSMT, a component made in tramadol. But it's legal, and it's legal because the research chemicals vendors that sell it are not particularly popular. I mean, they're popular among people who are really into drugs like I am, but they're not popular among normies. So the amount of paperwork that the DEA would have to do is essentially not worth it to schedule it. Now you get into something like acetylfentanyl, for example, or one of the other fentanyl analogs. I believe U7001 was one of them, or it was like UUA7001, some sort of complicated string of numbers and letters like that. That was a fentanyl, and it was scheduled. And it's not necessarily because it's being bought up by a bunch of people, but because dealers buy this research, or they synthesize this research chemical analog of fentanyl because it's very cheap to do so, and put it in things like heroin. And of course, you get increased deaths because of this, because people are just trying to make a quick buck. It's a product of prohibition. What can we do? It's prohibition at work. But you run into the risk. And of course, that's why the DEA schedules it. It's because it's because the dealers got smart. They got a bit smart. They're trying to make a bit of extra money, even though heroin is already incredibly cheap. It's like, what if we make a little extra money? Um, so they put these fentanyl analogs, and of course these analogs end up getting scheduled really quickly. They always get scheduled super fast. It's like they make a new one and then it immediately gets scheduled again. It gets scheduled, you know. And so that's that. That's the dynamic that exists, right? It gets scheduled again. But ODSMT doesn't pose that big of a risk societally, you know? What you're about to witness is me eating burritos, microwave burritos with a fork, because there's no forks and or with a knife, I mean a kitchen knife. There's no forks in this kitchen, and so I'm going to eat these with a knife instead. I've been waiting for my father to get home. I mean, this is like all there is. I just sort of have to force it down my throat. I really hate eating these. I really, really hate eating these, but it's like literally the only thing we have. And it is what it is. You're just sort of, at a certain point, you're just sort of stuck eating something. You have to mouth it down and just shut up. I've been thinking about the PS3. I've been thinking about the PS3 a lot recently, mostly because the PS3 is probably going to get turned offline. I saw in the news recently, because Google recommends me news based off of stuff I've searched, I guess, because I use, Google Chrome on my phone, which is a terrible thing to do. No one should do it. I shouldn't do it. I just do it anyway. No form of Google Chrome should ever be used, but I got recommended this article that Sony was suspending console-to-console messages between the PS3, the PS Vita, and the PS4, is that infrastructure is just not going to exist anymore. And we've seen more and more games of the PS3 be taken offline, like Warhawk, for example. It went down last year, and there were a lot of people who made videos of them playing Warhawk as the servers were going down. It's sort of similar to when the servers for Halo 2 went down in like 2011, I want to say. It might have been 2013, actually. It could have been, kind of late, but when Xbox Live for the original Xbox went away and they switched it over to just the 360 at the time, people were making videos of them, on voice chat, doing deathmatch in Halo 2, just to relive the feeling, the nostalgia of playing the first, like, really good multiplayer, shooter on consoles, at least. Or, you had the Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast's internet infrastructure was really advanced. Like Unreal Tournament, for example, was really pushing the envelope of what a console like that should have been able to do in the year 1999, 2000. But the Xbox just blew everything out of the water because Microsoft was a computer company. But, like, I didn't get to participate in the last days of the Xbox being online, the OG Xbox, even though I was following video game news at the time and I wanted to participate in it. I couldn't. But I'm looking at myself now as someone who's essentially an adult, and I'm looking back at those memories and I'm realizing that I can participate in the last days of the PS3. The PS5 is on its way now. It's almost here. Like the PS2's internet infrastructure was shut down in 2014. Or I think it was like early 2015 or like late 2014. It was pretty late. That console was released in the year 2000. And so if we're going by, that 15-year, 14-year margin, the PS3 was released in the year 2006. I mean, they're kind of overdue to get taken offline at this point. And we're seeing more and more of the signs that they're going to do that, what with cutting off these various things. And I want to talk with the last people who are playing Call of Duty. because I played Black Ops so much in like 2017, for example, in my dad's, well, it was my grandpa's trailer, but my grandpa died, and my dad was living there with my cousin because he left my mom at that point. They were separated. So I was living with him, and I would play on this little CRT television Call of Duty Black Ops all the time because there was like nothing to do in this house. But the PS3 was plugged up, and so, you know, the internet there was good, which was not something I was used to. I was used to satellite internet, which you basically couldn't play online games on. And so I was taking advantage of the internet that was there, which now I sort of take for granted because I'm just so used to having high-speed internet, you know, after these 2 years of living in different states, living in larger cities. But it really was a novelty in 2017 to be able to play a game online for me. And at this point, you know, the PlayStation 4 had already been released in 2014. It had been making the rounds for, you know, the last 3 years at that point. But the PS3 was still going pretty strong. It was still getting new releases. The online community was still very much there. And so I was sort of experiencing the last hurrah, the last really high point that that console was going to have, especially with an older game like Black Ops, where now, at this point, it's just sort of living on its last legs. You know, I'm never going to get those experiences back again of going on there and hearing all of these different people on voice chat, of being able to have active players at any hour of the day where I could be playing at 2 a.m., you know, and I fucking loved the aesthetic of doing that, by the way, of just sitting in my dad's gaff, in the trailer, you know, this small little place on this couch, you know, this really, like, it was a dirty couch, but it was a comfy couch. Being able to just sit there in the gaff on a tiny CRT television, just playing Black Ops online all the time. I would often have music that I was listening to, or a podcast that I'd listen to in the background. Of course, I'd have to listen to the shots, so it made it a little bit difficult to do. But it was just such a comfy experience, and I've had comfy experiences playing like CS:GO and TF2 on my computer, listening to podcasts and stuff. But it's not the same. It's not the same as being spread out on a couch, you know, late at night, or, you know, in the daytime, just spending every single day playing video games, because I didn't have very much I could do in that house. It was either summertime, or the time before that, it was me avoiding school, and then I dropped out of school. And there were various points where I was living there, again, because my mom and dad separated a lot. They went back and forth between one another. And so I would be living there again after I had dropped out of school. And at that point, it was like, once I was a high school dropout, all I had every day was time. And of course, during the summer, all I had every day was time. But there's a sense of irresponsibility that comes out of just dropping out of school. Like, it's a very, very special feeling. I would say that I recommend people do it just for the feeling, but that would be incredibly irresponsible for me to advocate for. So it was nice. It was really comfy and nice. Because finally, you know, after 2-3 months of being forced into education, I didn't have a worry in the world about education. No responsibilities, nobody to tell me what to do. I just had the gaff, and I had people online to play games with. And that was really all I needed. I loved doing it. You know, I said in a video recently, it was the video that I made on Star, Going Dark, you know, about, well, it was recently at the time this was recorded, but you know, yesterday, when I made this video saying that I can't really do escapism anymore, that, like, escapism doesn't really work, I don't think that's necessarily true with video games. Like, video games have always been the one medium that I actually can escape into. And I think if I had a PS3 around again, and I had, like, a TV to play it on, and I could, like, get, like, a comfy couch to play it on, I would instantly go back to that time period. Maybe not that time, like, that time period I'm never going to get it back, because I I was, 15 years old, on my way to becoming 16 that year. It was a very specific circumstance. It was a very specific house. I really loved that house. Even though it was kind of gross and old and there was electrical problems all the time, I really loved that house. And it makes me so sad that like the termites have basically ate through it at this point and it's just rotting into, it's just rotting out as my cousin does a number on the place. It's sad. I finally took a bite of this food. But hopefully those sounds don't pick up too much on the mic. But that's where my head has been at. I miss the PS3. It's just such a comfy console. Even though on a technical level, the Xbox 360 performed better. And I have way more memories with the Xbox 360. I don't feel the same sort of warm feeling when I think about it. Because I always liked the PS3 more as a console. When I played on it, we only had a couple games, but we did have one. We got it in like 2007, like early 2007 or late 2006. It was around the time it launched. And it was a lot of money to get that console. We had one of the first ones that was made, one of the ones that was backwards compatible with PS1 and PS2 games. And it was because my dad got some kind of loan from my grandpa. And that was the only way we could get it. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool witnessing that machine in action. But nowadays, I look back on it, and I think, I spent so many hours playing the 360, so many games on the 360, and I just really wanted to play the PS3. Like, it was that console that was always in the back of my mind, and I mean the Wii was there as well, because the Wii was the one console from that generation we didn't have, that I was really interested in, that I wanted to play, but the PS3 more so. The PS3 had this kind of intrigue to it. There's a feeling about it, and I could never really place what it was. Maybe it was just the fact that it wasn't, my main gaming machine, but there was something that eluded me. And I think when I would visit, kids from school, like in 6th grade, I visited this guy. I'll just call him E. Everything in his house was Sony. He had Sony TVs, he had the PS3 in his room, his brother had the PS3 in his room, in the living room they had the PS4, he had the PS Vita that he would play, as the handheld while I was, there playing Deathmatch or trying to, play online with like Red Dead Redemption or Black Ops 2. And so it was a big Sony-centric household, and the memories of me being there with that kid. I often say that I didn't have any friends when I was in school. I say that a lot, but I went over to a number of kids' houses. Like, there was this guy, I'll just call him W, who I went to school with, where at the end of 5th grade, once summer break started, I spent the night over at his house just playing a shit ton of PS2 games. He just had so much PS2 stuff where, like, there was, like, chickens outside of the house and stuff all over the place. He invited me over, and we just played PS2 for most of the time. And it's one of my best memories. It's just so comfy because there were all these games that I never got to play before that all of a sudden were right in front of me. And I thought it was the coolest thing. Another person's house I went over to, this was 7th grade, and it's a really sad story with this guy because I had bladder problems at the time. I had bladder problems, and I pissed on the chair that I was sleeping in his room, and I felt really bad about it. Like, I was embarrassed and upset. And my social anxiety just like skyrocketed through the roof. I was already nervous to be there. I was quiet most of the time. And I didn't really know how to interact with his family. But like, after that was really sad. Like, it doesn't make me as sad thinking about it anymore, but I still get kind of sad thinking about that whole memory. I don't have bladder problems anymore, thankfully, but I did for like the longest time, and I thought it wouldn't go away. Um, my dad had them until he was like 18, so I'm kind of glad that I got rid of them early there. But anyway, um, let's see, what was I on about? Oh yeah, PS3. But there was like this gigantic basement that they had, and it was huge. It was a huge basement. I don't even know how to describe it. There was so much stuff there, all these doors. Like it was quite an incredible place. And they had so many PS3s. It was like my household with Xbox 360s. We just kept getting them randomly because they were so cheap. There was just PS3s everywhere. And so with this kid, he had a number of siblings. He had like a sister, two older brothers, and so I was just there hanging around, playing Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Zombies on PS3, doing really badly. And this was another thing that made me super socially anxious because I was doing fucking terrible in this game. I wasn't used to it. I was more used to Black Ops 1. I was thrown off my game as well because I was already anxious being in a room with that many people. Like both of his parents were there watching us play. It was like a really dark room. It was kind of cool. But here I was trying to play the game, and like they're all yelling at each other, like come over here, and it just scared me. Like that's normal if you're playing video games with people, but it scared me in that situation to hear people being that loud because I associated people being loud in my house with fear. Like it's time to go in your room. This is time to be afraid now. And so I was really scared. And then, like as I kept dying, we walked out of the door. There was like a back door you could go out that went up from the basement into the outside to this like patio place. It's really weird the way this house was structured. And like the oldest brother, I think he had to have been like 22 or something like that. He was like, oh, all right. So like everybody who was playing the game, we all just went outside to go talk about what we were going to do the next time around in the next match. And it felt like almost like we were planning for a sport. It was like weirdly serious the way that they presented this. And he was like saying like, "Hey man, I thought you said you were good. What's going on here?" And I didn't really have much to say. I just kind of like mumbled an excuse. I don't really remember what it was. I think actually I said I was mostly used to the first game, which isn't really a very good excuse. Like it kind of works, but they're not that different from one another. And so I was just really disappointed in myself for like the rest of the night. And we kept playing, but eventually me and that friend, I'll just call this friend Jay. I've just given letters for all of these people. I ended up going to sleep that night. And it was weird. The Sony consoles were always something that I experienced in other people's houses, usually, mainly. And so I sort of associate the memories of like playing them with other people and just generally being eluded by them in my own home. I've done it. I've cracked the code. I've figured it out. This is a graph. This is no ordinary graph. This is a graph of my emotional state. An overly sized one, and specifically with about 4-5 different emotional periods that I'm demonstrating here. So, okay, it starts out, we're kind of neutral. This is over the last several months. That's what I'm trying to convey here. It starts out, it's kind of neutral. You see, I cracked the code. It's kind of neutral. It goes up a little bit. Okay, that's fine. It goes down a little bit, then it stays there for a while. It's sort of stagnant. I want to call this right here. This is 2 months. Okay, this is 2 months. I can't spell for shit on my computer, but yeah, that right there is 2 months. Let's say this. Okay, this is about 2.5. Okay, yeah, this is about let's say this is about 2.5 weeks. I'm just going to put a W here. Yeah, that's about 2.5 weeks we have it like that. This is 4 months. Okay? This is 4 months right here of being depressed. And then this little this little dent right here. This is about a week. This is about 1 week of being happy, okay? And then we go into the pit of despair right here. This like jagged line on the inside of my brain. You know, just forming a not fully formed triangle. Let's say this is about a month of feeling this way, you know, give or take, maybe like 0.75 weeks, but I'm gonna give it about a month. Now this is interesting. I didn't use the same metric because I ran out of space. Okay, this right here, this is 3 months. About, is it 3? See, we go January didn't really count. No, let's go erase, delete. This is about 2.5. This right here, this is 2.5. Okay, so where's my pen? Okay, 2.5. Let's go. This is 2.5 months. Okay, this is 2.5 months, and then this right here. This is the rest of it. I'm just gonna write rest. This is right now. Okay, yeah, that was very coherent text right there. This this like steep fall right here. This like falling off of a cliff. This jumping off of a cliff right here. This is the rest. This is right now. We get about 2.5 months of I'm doing pretty good to a huge drop. Actually, no, fuck this. This over here, this is like 2 weeks. This was 2 weeks. Yeah, this right here, because this is I think this hole right here is December, kind of, sort of. Is this? Yeah. So there was like the 1 week where I was doing pretty good in November, and then this right here is December. This is when I got addicted to. Where's my other pen? That's the wrong pen. This is when I got that pen is way too big. What the hell? Ope. I don't know why I'm trying to use another pen. Opiates. And yeah, this is opiates right here. Of course, when I was actually on them, when I was high, I was not feeling this way. I was like, let's make another line to dim it. I was like, this is when I'm using opiates. This line, it's like it jumps way up and you can't even see it anymore. That's how far it goes up. That's when I'm on opiates. But when I wasn't, when I just had to exist, it was like this big hole right here. And it was because I really didn't want to go back to school, because look at this. This is like 4 months of basically feeling. I don't actually know. How long was I in school again? I went there in September. So it was September 9th or something. Anyway, basically, ever since I went into school, I felt really bad, and my emotional state kind of was like flatline bad. Like I did a dip and I was doing bad. I mean, even a couple of months before going to school, I was pretty depressed. So it wasn't like, you know, things just magically came together. But yeah, I was doing pretty bad. And then December happens, and I'm just insanely depressed. I just don't want to go back to school like ever. I hate it. And that's December. So that's too, you know, December was really bad. And yeah, I get addicted to opiates at this time. Physically addicted. You know, there's a bit of a psychological addiction there as well, because again, I was using them to literally hide from the fact that I had to go back to school. So yeah, that was a thing. Yeah, that's my mood in a graph. You're getting star. live streamed. No, this isn't a live stream. This is just me talking to you through the camera. Hello, my name is Star, and I'm on a YouTube video. It would appear, I don't know what it is with me talking about Corona in the kitchen, but there's something there. I think almost every video where I've talked about Corona, I've been in the kitchen. So Corona in the kitchen sounds kind of nice. It's like I'm cooking Corona in here. Sadly, I don't have a Corona to drink. I'm not sad about that. Corona tastes terrible, but I'm sad about not having alcohol. Anyway, yeah, the coronavirus seems to be a rapidly spreading phenomenon. It's going all over the place, scaring a lot of people. Yang bucks seem to be a thing now. April 6th, the Treasury Department is going to give everyone $1,000 a month, and then $500 for every child. I think it goes up to like $3,000 or something like that. And then there's a cap. I don't know. But don't take me on that. I think it's just $500 for every child in general. But I saw some information saying the opposite. Either way, people are going to be getting a lot of money one way or the other. Quite a bit. More, the more people you have with you. And I don't really know how they're going to get this money to people. Like you can fill out the census, but most people don't fill out the census. Let's be real here. So how, I guess the government just knows where everybody lives, but like what if someone moved recently and then they get the check in the mail to a house that they don't live at anymore? I mean, I'm sure it's a real thing that can happen, right? I don't know how it's going to work. How do you coordinate something like that? Do you just have every adult has a bank account and a social security number, and then they go off of that? It probably go off of that, but I don't know. It's weird. Corona's making Yang bucks a reality. Everyone's going to get a UBI. You know, I turn 18 April 29th, and I would get a UBI. I would be an adult. I'd get a UBI. What the hell? $1,000? That sounds pretty good to me. Finally upgrade my computer, not have to deal with computer problems anymore. I've been dealing with computer problems for a while. I don't have to worry, you know, won't have to worry about it. In my state of Kentucky, we're one of the states that's been affected actually the least. We have something like 26 cases here. It's like a ludicrously small amount, and they're mostly in counties that are actually far away from where I live. I think there's like one case in a county that's somewhat close by. But on my part of the state, Western Kentucky, we have basically no cases here. And I know that's going to change as the pandemic gets bigger over time, but I live in a small city, a very small city. There's not really any place where public gatherings happen here. Like there's a movie theater, but that's basically it. And no one goes to the fucking movie theater. I'm pretty much the only one who's ever in there. So we know, kind of, that there's probably not going to be that much of a spread here, so probably not that much to worry about. I'm still self-isolating because it gives me an excuse not to go outside. But there's really nothing, so far at least, to worry about on my side of the country, where I live. But I think it's very cool. I think it's very, very cool that this Corona stuff is happening, because it's, you know, it's forcing federal government to, you know, keep people from being kicked out of their houses. They're suspending evictions and foreclosures for people who have government loans and stuff, or people who are in government housing, which is pretty cool. You know, people won't get kicked out of their houses. They're giving everybody free money for however long the crisis is going on. I think that's pretty cool. But, you know, this, like I said in my other video, this Corona stuff is going to drastically, well, maybe not drastically, it depends on how you look at the word. It's going to reduce the population, which I think is a good thing. You're getting rid of a lot of excess people who don't, you know, the planet has some problems with overpopulation, let's just say. So that's a good thing. You know, we got pollution. Pollution is becoming less and less of an issue. because people just aren't outside to pollute stuff. The Italian river or whatever had like a dolphin in it for the first time in 60 years. That's kind of cool. Um, and Corona's bringing everyone together, you know? Everyone's in their house. All of the normies, they're all in their houses, and so they're forced to connect with people through the internet to talk about, oh my God, what is it like being here in my room all the time, in my house all the time? This is crazy. It's brought everyone to understand my way of life, the way that I have done things for the last couple years of almost never going outside. You all you people, finally understand what it's like to be Star. And in that sense, maybe, I hope, it's giving you a bit more empathy for different ways of life. That would be nice. But I also see a lot of retarded memes, a lot of people just being retarded, and that's not good. People of like, oh, how could I ever possibly stay in my house for more than 2 days? Wow. Wow. How could I ever possibly stay in my house for more than 2 hours? You know, it's that kind of thing. I'm not a fan of that, because in a sense I think it's a genuine harm or a threat to people like me to have that kind of propaganda circulating all over the internet. Makes us look like all a bunch of freaks. I mean, I kind of want to look like a freak though. Is it a bad thing or is it a good thing if I... That's the problem, is that in a sense it's like on a propaganda cultural societal level, I know that all of the people who are going insane right now because they have to spend more than 5 seconds in their house because of Corona are making people like me look even more insane, because they're like, oh, well, my point of view and my way of seeing the world is just the way everybody sees the world, right? My friends on Facebook are just the way everybody sees the world, right? And so, you know, it's that kind of thing. And so, what do they think of me? You know, someone who spends most of the time in the house. They must think I'm fucking insane, right? And I guess that poses a threat to me in the sense that, like, less people empathizing with you means that more people are going to be hostile towards you. But I also like being viewed as someone who's insane. Even though I am not personally insane, I don't think. I mean, insane, it's kind of a loaded word. It's not really a real thing. It's just sort of something that people have created in order to put the people who can't necessarily fit into society into their own little box, their own little category, to say this is the societal problem we have to worry about now. It's all socially constructed. It's not really a real thing. But the cultural connotations associated with insanity are something that I like to ascribe myself to, because it makes you a bit of an outsider. It makes you a bit of a character in your own way. And I like the reaction I get from it. I like seeing people think that I'm more insane than I actually am. That doesn't mean, you know, don't tell the truth. I'm a very truthful person, I'd like to think. I withhold information every now and again, but I try not to lie. I don't like lying. I don't like intentionally telling falsehoods. And so, with the truth that I have, I can only present myself as a character or emphasize certain truths. I can only be a bit more unhinged in my comedic style in certain life choices that I make that would be, you know, viewed as insane. All the while, the way I'm actually experiencing and perceiving the reality is pretty clear, pretty calm. But the way that people would view it in a video like this is like, wow, Star's going insane now, woo! You know, just because I play loud music in a video and I say some kind of strange jokes and I make myself look silly, as anybody who's being silly must be either going insane or on drugs all the time, right? You know, oh, Star is on drugs all the time. Not even true. That's not even true. But it's what people assume because you can't tell. You, Mr. Straight Edge, cannot tell when I am or am not. So you just assume, oh, well, he's being wacky. Okay. I don't know. This Corona stuff? I think this Corona stuff is good, actually. Dude, I fucking hate eating food. Whenever I eat food, I get really sad. Like, after eating, I feel sad. During eating, I feel very sick. It just makes me feel sick to eat food. But after I've eaten, I tend to feel sad. Like, not just sad from sickness, but just sad that I ate. Like, there's something that feels incredibly unnatural about eating food. Like my body grinds to a halt and it's doing something that it's not supposed to do. And I've felt like this for a long time. My family used to have extreme problems with me eating too little because, and I mean they still do, is that I just won't eat as much as I'm supposed to. And there were problems with us just straight up not having food for the longest time. Poverty has been a huge issue in my life. But aside from that, when food actually is around, I'll always eat less than what I'm supposed to, ideally, because it just hurts to eat. It just does not feel right. It's not something I'm used to. It's not something that feels like something I should be doing. Especially when it's something like sugar. Like sugary food, on an empty stomach, sugary food kills me. I cannot eat sugary food on an empty stomach. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Eating in general makes me feel like I'm going to throw up, but eating food specifically on an empty stomach is terrible. Or sugary food, I should say. Eating sugary food on its, with other food mixed in as well, it's easier, but it feels fucking terrible. It's just gross. I don't know how people can't look at all of the food that exists and not immediately feel disgusted. This is why I always say that, well, one of the reasons why I always say, I wish I could replace my body with the body of a computer, because there's so many of these bodily functions that we have, like sexual desire, the desire to eat food, that make no sense and should not make sense and are inefficient as all hell. And if I could get rid of them in an instant, I would. If I could just get rid of it, if I could make it to where I don't have to eat food, I would immediately, because I just hate eating. But I do it anyway. Everyone does it anyway to the extent that they have to. And I weigh 110 pounds now. I have to get my weight up. I have to actively do things to try and get my weight up. But I don't want to, because it's fucking gross. Food is fucking gross, dude. And this isn't a cope. I've had food around and just not wanted to eat it. But I have to anyway. I have to make myself eat it. I don't know why I feel like this. I felt like this forever. Felt like this forever. It doesn't feel natural to me to eat food. Do you ever wish that someone could see out of your eyes? That the exact way that you perceive something at a particular moment is the perfect way to perceive it. That if there was a way to communicate exactly the angle, exactly the movement of your eyes to someone on a camera, that you would. You hear incels and these other normie types talk very often about lookism, the way someone appears, they look at one picture of someone and then, assume that that one image is exactly what defines, the way that they look. But the truth is that people are perceived from different angles every day. One way that you look at someone in real life could make them look unappealing, and another way that you look at someone in real life could look appealing. The difference that makes people appealing overall is whether or not their personality strikes a chord, if they're someone you want to be around. If they're someone you want to be around, then eventually the brain has its way of making the person attractive to you. They've actually done studies about this that have found that when people start falling in love with someone, they begin to be physically attracted to them even though they weren't before. And the thing that leads that person to falling in love with them tends to be factors like personality. Does this person remind me of a parent or someone close in a certain way? Or do they do these things that me specifically, me with this specific upbringing and set of circumstances, find attractive? Because at the end of the day, it's all a game of the lottery. It's not something that we can mechanically determine. People have, in theory, a lot of different factors that make up their loving style, that make them love other people. At the end of the day, those things are just narratives. Those are narratives we've constructed in order to explain the phenomena that exists. We don't know for sure, but we can say, at least sort of, that people do fall in love with people who they were not attracted to begin with. And I think everyone, just sort of by admission, can look at someone from bad angles every day, because they know that you can look at that person from good angles as well, that there are good angles that you can see the person. They just sort of dismiss the bad ones, the bad ways of seeing a person. With a tool like a camera, you get uniquely bad angles, because a camera views things in a way that the human eye does not. The framing, the way that something appears. And so you get a uniquely bad or good angle that's not really representative of reality. It gives you sort of a caricature of what the real person is like, but it's not a true representation of reality. Just as if I put glasses with cameras in them over my face, I may be able to produce a YouTube video that is, more aesthetically in line with what I would like to be showing you through my own eyes. But it's never exact, because my eyes can move, and thus the angle moves, and the specific way in which I'm viewing that thing changes as well. So does the meaning. The beauty of it changes slightly or significantly. It just depends on the way that it's being looked at. And that's why we say that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because perspective is beholden to so many different factors. There's so many different things that make up perspective, the way that we view things. There are some things that are just beautiful no matter what way you look at it. The mountains. Look at the mountains anyway. They're always beautiful. They don't change. I'd say the snow is one of those things too. The rain is one of those things. You don't have to look at the rain a certain way. It's just always beautiful. But there are certain things I want to express. Things that I want to communicate to you that I just can't. Because you don't have my eyes. If you could have my eyes, the things I would show you would be different. I'm limited. I have to work within the constraints of what my phone camera can do, which, if you try hard enough, can do a lot, but it's never exact. If I had a small GoPro, I could place you in small spaces. What if I put the GoPro onto a little car of some kind controlled by a remote control? and I could show you a small world that we would have never seen otherwise. That's why those dog cameras are so popular. It's because people want to see what it's like to be from the perspective of a dog, so you put a camera over the dog. But it's never the full perspective. It's only a version of it. Even when you change the colors of the video to look more like the way a dog would see color, it's never truly accurate. It's only a simulation. But if I had a GoPro, I could show you so many more perspectives. If I had a better tripod, multiple better tripods, I could show you so many better perspectives. I'm limited by my hand and my phone. And in some ways, limitation is a good thing, because it forces you to adapt. You have to find new ways of framing things, new angles to look at things through, or to edit the video in a way that cuts between clips interestingly, to where you may not need to have the most interesting or expressive angles, but the way in which it cuts is. There's any number of things you can do with filters as well, even though I don't like relying on filters. I think filters should only be used if they have a specific meaning, if there's a reason they're being used, they're expressing something. Or really all editing should be that way. I don't think editing should just be put on for the sake of it. When other people do that, I don't really mind, but in my own videos, I do mind. So what can you do? What can you do about the way I see things? I don't really know. No, it's funny that I use this kind of mixed metaphor about incels in the beginning of the video just because that was the first example that I thought of. But I've been trying to figure out how I can get rid of the incels who watch my videos. And there's a couple strategies I have so far. I know I need to double down on the weird titles more. I need to upload more videos in one day. So overall, you know, my videos are showing up in people's sub feeds less, more people unsub. But I need to be louder. I need to be more rambunctious. I need to make them angry. I think that's the only way I can get these people to stop watching my videos. I mean, that Korean faggot, Yoshika Miyako Red, like, I think a lot of his fans have exited at this point, but not enough of them. And if you like his videos at this point, like the videos he's currently doing, I don't think you should be watching my channel. Unless I just like you individually as a person. Because those aren't the kind of people who I want to be associating with the things that I do. I want them to look at my channel and go, I'm disgusted by this. I hate this guy. You know, I'm bored by this. This is not for me. This is cringeworthy. Anything. Literally anything just to get those people to go away. I've never set out to have a lot of subscribers, except when I thought YouTube was the only possible way that I could ever sustain myself financially, and that was a long time ago. I want these people to go away. I hate incels as human beings. I really do. I think there are certain people who exist who are just bad, that no amount of care or a good environment as a child could have fixed them. That many of these incels were just the guys, the small, incredibly small, you know, the 0.1% of the 1% of people who could just never fuck. And the reason isn't necessarily because of the way that they look. You know, you see women with guys who look terrible all the time. Way worse than some of these people who post themselves on the internet. The reason these guys could never fuck is because many of them are retarded, but they're arrogant at the same time. They have what I call the nerd pretentiousness. You know, like, they're alienating to people because they're nerds, but they're stupid. And they think because they're just slightly different in these specific ways that, you know, they have everything figured out. That, you know, they're these geniuses of people. You know, like, I see a lot of incels using words wrong. They'll intentionally put bigger and bigger words into their sentences. just so they can try and sound smart. Well, it's weird. It's weird to me, and I'm not saying that those are all of them, but that's one example, is that that type of person is just pretentious. People just find someone like that annoying. And there are certain people in the world who just were never going to fuck, because they were made from the beginning to be bad. There are certain people who were just made from the beginning to be bad. I don't think everyone is like that. I think you watching this video, probably all of you are not like that. It's such a small margin, but they become so loud when you get onto the internet that we don't always have the ability to predict this when someone is a child. But I think if I could go back in time, I would have advised many of these parents to just hit their kids. You know, like, I'm generally not an advocate of corporal punishment, but there are some kids who you can just tell they're an incel. You can look at them and you can just tell that's who that kid is. Those kids should have been hit as children. They should have. And I don't think society should accept them. I think all of these New York Times articles about, you know, how we should be empathizing with incels and all this bullshit coming out of the left is unproductive. Because those people were never to be reasoned with in the first place. They're not going to rehabilitate, they're not going to get better. They should have been hit as children, and they should be hit now. If you're one of those people who have some of the characteristics I'm describing and you're watching this video, you're not going to do it, but you should kill yourself. The world would be at least marginally less annoying as a whole. I see these people as roadblocks. You know, you go into a road, let's say you're driving on the street, for example, and there's a barrier to the road keeping you from getting to your destination. It's a mild annoyance, but it's in front of you nonetheless. And you just move it. And then it's out of the way, out of sight, out of mind. No more irritation, and you can get to the finish line. That's how I see incels. They're not human beings. They're not autonomous. They're just annoyances that should be removed. And I've always hated these people. Now, Red was really the only incel who I was friends with, and as I predicted from the beginning, he turned out to be, you know, a normie Chad, who's just really retarded. So, you know, not much I can do. But I wish people would just leave me alone, that they would just go away. Not even because I'm irritated by them. No, I don't wish death onto people because I want those people to be in pain. The reason I wish death onto people is because I want them to be removed. They have to justify their existence to me. Otherwise, they're just a roadblock. They're just in my way. A minor annoyance warrants a swift killing. I do not want incels to exist. And, I want to be alienating. I don't care what I have to say to do it. I don't care what I have to do it. I want to be alienating. I want you to go away. And, it is what it is. Like, the fact that people, you know, took what I said in my video about Madatsuki, the Korean guy, like, the fact that people thought that video was genuine, they shouldn't be watching the channel. And I mean, not all of them. There are some good people who watched that video, and they thought it was genuine, just because they were confused by my tone. But I said so many things that radically contradict, you know, like, the way that I think. Like calling myself a libertarian, for instance, or saying that greed is good. I obviously don't believe those things. But I said them because I don't care what I say. I just say things. Some things are interesting, other things are not. I just say things. It's up to you to figure out what's the real opinion and what's not.